Hi, my name is Sally Bernard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, today we have a slightly different show. I have a special guest for the first half hour, Russ Johnson, who I was on his program last week it was all about UFOs, which is something I'm really interested in. I know anybody that's listening now is probably saying, that's a different topic, but I'm very happy to answer any questions and for you to ask me any questions regarding UFOs, since it has been kind of in the news recently. So here we go. Any questions are open, and also with my guest, if you have anything to ask me.
Well, I'd just like to start with, recently there have been some unidentified flying objects in the space that have been shot down. What do you think is that about?
Well, without knowing for sure, the first one we know was a balloon.
Oh,
okay. But the next three, I believe, what I'm finding very fascinating about that is they're not mentioning it anymore. They mentioned it in the very beginning, and they were telling us what they looked like, and suddenly that's gone all very quiet. The reason is, I mean, I don't know how much I know about this. However, I do know in my book, I was going to many places, which is known from my book, that I was going to different planets. So that's where my interest started. So I'm happy if any viewers or anybody in the studio and yourself wants to ask me any questions, I'll do my best with my collective to answer.
You know, so you're clairvoyant?
Yes, I am.
And intuitive?
I am.
Psychic?
I am.
You probably can do remote viewing.
Yeah, I do.
All of the above.
I will. And in a minute, I'm going to disappear. Okay, yes.
Okay, for people who are new,
okay,
how does a clairvoyant?
Well, I sense and feel. I'm actually an empath too, which you didn't mention, but that's okay. I have enough titles here. So I feel people, but anyone that's tuned into my show, and I do have regular viewers today, know that I can answer any question. I don't know what I'm going to be asked, and it's better that I don't, but I tune into a collective that I have, and they're able to answer. I kind of work through them, and I'm able to, but mainly my guide, which people are very familiar with in my show, which is Aldo, and my viewers who listen are very aware of that. He gives me many of the answers because I don't know that I know these things. However, I'm able to discuss it and talk about anything that someone asks me. But right now, my interest right now has become very strong in UFOs, which I'm happy to have you as a guest because you have been talking about this for many years. Russ has been talking about this for many years. I haven't, but we met here in the studio. So anything that you would like to ask me, I'm going to do my best to answer, or any viewers that are calling in. It doesn't have to be UFOs because I have a second part of this show, but the first half is about this.
Okay, all right. The thing I would ask you about, that you've been here as a clairvoyant, when did you discover, when did you understand, when did you know that you were a clairvoyant?
Actually, I love that question because when I first, as a child, I was getting many type of messages. In fact, my parents, at that point when I was like 2, I haven't even mentioned this, when I was about 4 or 5, they actually brought in somebody, a psychic, because I said to them, would you stop waking me up at night? You're talking to me. They weren't. So they were wondering what in the world was going on with me. So they brought in a psychic who said that I was hearing things. But they were very open, which was very good. So they didn't discourage me for anything. But it was actually, I had many, many different situations in the first part of my life. But I really began to open up to this maybe about 18, 19 years ago, when, as people know that have been following me, my guide from somewhere else came in physicality, and he started to, if you want to, kind of train me to tell me that I did know this, so that I began to open up very much. So in answer to your question, I have known all my life, but I was only aware that I've known over the last 20 years, let's say.
What kind of information then your guide, when he approached you or set you down, or however, what kind of information did he give you? What did he say he needed you to do for him?
Well, actually, how it started, because I went to bed one night, this is the day before I met him, and he said, I didn't know there was an Aldo coming into my life, but I started to travel in my dream. And I thought to myself, which I have mentioned, so I don't want to be too repetitive on my program, but since you're sitting here, it's a good time to talk about this. I was dreaming, and in my dream, I felt a very strong flying sensation. And to me, I can even remember from 18, 19 years ago, I could feel vibrations. I can tell you exactly what I saw in that dream. I knew that. But I didn't have any idea what had happened to me. I didn't know about astral projection. I didn't know anything about aliens abducting you, because I hadn't really read that much. However, the following day when I went to work, Aldo, my guide, who I found out later, approached me, and he explained to me, he said, I know where you were last night. And I'm saying, how do you, I don't want to be too repetitive, but he said to me, he told me this, and I said, how do you know where I was? I have no idea what was happening to me. But he proceeded to tell me exactly everything that had happened in my so-called dream. So it got my interest. I thought he was crazy. I thought I was crazy. But later on, as time went by, I began to see, because I was having many of these travels, and I began to see that I was getting access to so much information in the process. He gave me information because he was in my dream. He explained to me exactly, and many dreams that I had. So to me, how does someone tell me what I'm dreaming? It's in what we know here, that's not possible. But he was getting into my dreams.
Well, you could have been abducted.
Well, and I'm very happy that you're on my show today, Russ, because it took me, I'm going to say 18 years, and when I met you, I suddenly realized actually what had happened to me. I don't want to scare my viewers away right now.
Well, there may be other people who have been abducted but don't know they've been abducted.
And I didn't. I knew I was astral projecting. To me, that became very real because I was reading. I even mentioned, and he won't mind me mentioning his name, Uri Geller, who is very well known. So I knew he was able to do this, and I actually had the opportunity to meet him. So I knew I wasn't crazy. But however, I knew there was more to this because I'm going to planets. And I thought I was just traveling there. Okay. But I was traveling in a vehicle. Okay. I was traveling in a vehicle.
You've heard of Bud Hopkins and others who have been doing a lot of research on abductions. So how would you advise a person if they had gone through the same experiences you have, that they have probably been abducted?
Well, I am so happy that I have you as my guest and that I've met you, because I'm coming out with this, and I didn't know for 18 years. Okay. So I just put it down to that I was traveling, which was strange to me, but there was much more literature on that, so I was able to read it. But if there's anybody that's listening to my show, to know that you are experiencing something that it seems very hard to understand and believe, but it's real. I'm just beginning after 18 years to understand exactly what happened to me. I want to say, and I've never really come out with this other than on your show the other day, that I was abducted many, many times during that first year. I didn't know, I didn't have a name for it. But the relief, truthfully, that it's given me to be able to come out with this, yes, there's going to people that are going to say, well, you're crazy. I don't mind. Right. I feel that it's very important to let people know that this is going on. It's
estimated that in the United States alone, there are about 6 to 8 million people who have been abducted, but 99% of the people don't know. They may have some inclination that may be possible, or something happened in their lives. Why do you think people are abducted? What kind of information you have?
Okay,
on that?
That's an excellent question. I'm not completely there with the answers, but I can tell you to start off with, I believe that the majority of people that are abducted by what we call aliens off this planet, I feel happier to say off this planet, because they're not aliens. They are, but they're not. To us, they are. They're trying to, they do experiments, but I feel it's for our own good. I feel that we're doing a lot in this planet right now that is harming our planet. They don't want it. Majority, I'm not saying them all, but there's many out there. They don't want us to harm our planet. They don't want us to harm ourselves with all the chemicals that we're putting in us. So as I'm beginning to open up more of this, Russ, I feel that they're abducting us to help us, to show us maybe what to eat, maybe to be able to help us not get rid of this planet, because they also have an invested interest in this.
What was the vested interest?
Because if we damage our planet, we are actually going to damage their planets. Okay. I don't know completely, because I'm just beginning to really understand this. But if we start with all this nuclear, we're doing a lot of damage to ourselves. And as I believe I said this on your show the other day, Mother Earth is a being. It's hard to understand that, but Mother Earth doesn't want us to do this. They don't. So consequently, we're having more earthquakes, the weather. I mean, I can't prove this, but it's what I feel, and I feel very strongly about this. We've got to take care of ourselves.
Well, okay. How many species do you think are visiting us?
Oh, many.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely many.
Because there's a vast number of entities in the big universe out here.
I would go as far to say is that there's over 1,000 different planets out there, not just one or two.
Wow.
But again, we've got to be careful with disclosure on this, because many people, because of what we've learned to be, I'm going to say, to be controlled, without going into that more deeply.
Well, you're saying 1,000 planets that have life form.
Have life form,
different
yes.
life
yes.
forms.
And through the controllers, which we are controlled, we're closed mind about this. If you start to unravel it, so to speak, in a little way, and begin to see it as I am, actually little by little, as Aldo used to tell me, go little by little, we can talk about it more openly. We can discuss what we're doing. After all, if there are other people, again, I'm going to say they don't necessarily want to hurt us, but we don't know they exist. So they're beginning to show themselves. People are beginning to open their minds a little bit more.
Aldo, what did he tell you specifically? I know you've talked about it before, but in a nutshell, what did he tell you that he wanted you to do?
He wanted me to be his mouthpiece.
Okay.
He understood exactly what I'm talking about
was
now. He was born in Peru. He came into my life about 19, 20 years ago. He knew when he first came in that he remembered his lifetimes. He remembered a lot. So at the age of 1, and I mean this is proven, he was reading newspapers. There are people on television that talk the way that he does, and he was very open to the idea that he was in here to help. And he chose me to help. He chose me. He came into this earth and he looked for me. He found me. I was already in my late 50s, 60s. So.
Okay.
But
do you think he was an alien?
The more of course, he left us 2 years ago, but he's here with me. I am seeing that. He told me there were certain things that he never pushed me into believing anything. I had to ask him the questions. He told me who I was in previous lives, but I had drawn what I was in previous lives, so I was very open. He told me there were certain things maybe that he couldn't tell me right now. If I want to think about this more, I believe that he was. He came here for me to be his mouthpiece and to come open with all of this.
Okay, so he came here for you to be his mouthpiece to give what kind of message to the rest of us?
Well, exactly what we're doing now.
Okay.
And I'm also writing another book, and hopefully the book will become a movie. So I'm only one person trying to expose this a little bit. Do I know the whole thing? No, but I do feel that disclosure is very near.
Okay.
So if anybody that is listening can just keep an open mind that maybe we're not alone here. Maybe we're not alone.
So you really believe, matter of fact, based on your experiences of being abducted,
Yes.
and some of it you're remembering now, because that it's easy to erase the memory of the people who have been abducted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They wipe our memory, which is something I'm just beginning to learn, but I'm breaking through that now.
Okay.
For 18 years, I didn't know that. Although I was traveling to all these, which I write openly in my book, I was traveling to different planets. I'm only beginning to realize that they had erased my memory, which now they're not. Well, I'm breaking through that. I don't know if they still are, because I don't know what I don't remember.
So the other question is, do you think you've been here more than once? Do you think you've been on this planet in and out?
I believe I was here, what we would quote call a very old soul, because I remember, I'm beginning to remember when Earth appeared and where I was, because I was drawing from that time, which at that time Aldo was explaining, I'm drawing rocket ships. Where do I get the idea of drawing rocket ships?
Okay. What do you remember then, if I may, of the beginning time that you were here? Now, how many times do you think you've been here, in and out?
Many, many times, Russ. I am an old...
So when we're born and leave, we can be reincarnated back here?
From my belief, absolutely.
And you've been here more than once?
Yes, because for myself, I probably was not believing this for many years, but suddenly I am drawing from other lifetimes of things that I haven't seen.
Some of us?
Yes, I'm drawing rocket ships, I'm drawing people, I'm drawing places, I'm drawing things from I'm drawing symbols from the Renaissance Center.
If we were to go back, there's a book by Zachary Sitchin's, the 12th planet, I believe it's called.
The 12th
anyway,
planet.
He talks about in the Sumerian civilization of years and years, 400,000, 500,000 years ago, that the Anunnaki came here from a planet. Some people call it X, some people could call it Nibiru, right? That they wanted to come here because they were having problems with their planet, and they needed to get the gold to fix their atmosphere.
Correct.
And they came here for that reason.
Right.
Now, that's 400,000 years ago.
Yes.
You think you were?
I do believe that I was. I do, because I'm drawing where they came down in spaceships. I was never an artist. I mean, yet one of my first few drawings in the beginning were spaceships. I'm drawing a person in the spaceship. Where is this memory coming from? It's not from this lifetime. I've never been in a spaceship. I've been in an aeroplane, but not a spaceship. So I'm drawing in detail what was happening. Aldo said to me when he first met me, he said, I want you to read 2 books. He said, if you can get through them, then you're going to begin to remember.
What one?
Zachariah Sitchin, The 12th Planet.
Okay.
And then I read many more. And also David Icke, because he felt that was very important, that I knew maybe what was going on and why I couldn't remember.
Okay. David Icke. He's from England.
He's actually from England, yes.
Yeah. And he was a sportscaster.
He was, yes.
And then he went on to become a philosopher and...
Yes. Yes, I have followed him for the last 18 years. Yes.
For the people who want to look at David Icke, you can what?
I recommend, yes, Google him. I mean, I think one of his first books in the beginning was the something about the biggest secret or something.
Okay.
I don't remember offhand, but he has written many books about basically what we're talking about, Zachariah Sitchin, and there are tablets. I'm going back to London for a vacation in a few months' time.
Awesome.
And they are actually, the tablets of this story are in one of the history museums in London.
Right, that's what they
We
say.
just don't want to accept it. And you know.
Well, as William Tompkins says, he just left us. He was 94 years old. And he has a book called, I think it was Contacted by Extraterrestrials or something like that, something like William Tompkins.
Right,
T-O-M-P.
yes.
So I would tell people to go pick up his book and see what he has to say.
Yes.
He's saying that basically we have been miseducated, that we don't really know the true history of who we are, number one. Of 2, that we've been on this planet for a long time, and that we are souls that come in and out of the bodies being incarnated. So you saying you were here 400,000 years ago on the first...
I believe I was. Yes, I believe I was, because what would possess me to start drawing spaceships with my memory coming back? I've never seen I've not been on this particular lifetime on a spacecraft.
All right.
But I was in my travels. I was traveling on spacecrafts, just to say that.
But
in my book.
recently, the Pentagon is saying that we have something in this space that's jumping up and down. We don't know for sure. That's called the soft disclosure.
Yes, yes.
So it's much more information to all of this than we can even imagine. What would you tell people to do in terms of doing research? Watch Gaia, Cosmic Connections, Beyond Belief, George Miller?
Beautiful. First of all, before anything, keep an open mind.
Okay.
That is so important. Just say to yourself, maybe, I don't have to necessarily believe it, but maybe I should just watch to see what's going on. And there are many people, many whistleblowers today that are high up in the government all over the place that are coming out explaining this story. Gaia is excellent to watch. I mean, I'm not here to push Gaia TV, but it is just to let people know that there are many people, many of these shows will expose a lot of this. I believe right now is the time. I feel that I'm ready to come out with what I'm just beginning to understand. I didn't know that I was being abducted. I am 99% certain that I was abducted for 1 year, 3 or 4 times a week.
That's a lot.
It was, yeah. Well, I was stubborn. I didn't. I mean, they had to show me that I could paint this. I didn't know I was an artist. So I believe that my message for anybody, I'm going to say anybody that's interested, that wants to hear, I'm here to answer questions of that to the best of my ability. I'm so happy that I met you, because this is not coincidence that you are here to actually have me on your show, which is about this. And I feel that I'm opening up so much more today.
That's good.
It's important.
And so your guide wanted you to stay here and give us the message to the rest of the people that there's more to the universe and more to us than we possibly know.
That's exactly perfect. Exactly what he would have said to me had he been sitting in this chair right now.
Right.
He wanted his anonymity, which I respect, and in my book I call him Adamir. But he has gone now, and I believe that he wants me to talk about it because I hear him all the time telling me.
Oh, so he's still in contact with you?
Absolutely, 100%. I get validated all the time.
What would he say to us as a evolving entity, if you will, learning some new lessons, saying, because if you look at the traditional religion, Catholic, Catholicism, Methodists, Protestants, they say there's a Garden of Eden, there was an Adam, there was an Eve, that here we evolved from the caveman or something like that. But you said that's not the true story.
Well, I believe that we were around, well, it's partly true, but it's over the years, you know, in the Bible, and I'm not here to knock religion. I mean, people believe what they want to believe. But from what I understand, we started way before that. So there are similarities in the Bible of what was going on. I'm not here to judge or say, but just to keep an open mind. Maybe there was much more in the very beginning. I don't know how I've got this information. I could talk for a long time about the beginning when the first 50 people came down here. Aldo only told me so much. I read Zecharia Sitchin, my mind was opening up, and I'm drawing from many times of that particular time. I feel that I am being guided, because anything that someone might want to know from, let's say, the very beginning of Earth, there are other planets that are a lot older than ours, I can answer to the best of my ability. How is that possible if it didn't happen? And my story kind of goes with other people that are opening up. I had not heard all these other people till I found Gaia, but I could understand what they were talking about, these whistleblowers. So to me, I validated myself, so to speak, that I can do this.
If I mention the name David Wilcock, Corey Good, Emerald Smith,
yes,
you know all of these people.
I absolutely do, because my mind, when I found Gaia, I was so, I couldn't, I had to listen to what they were saying, because it's everything that I was I was beginning again to understand. I knew this, but I didn't know. I knew through Aldo, but he never pushed me. I had to ask him the questions, because that to me was more real. And he came out with all the answers, just like they do on Gaia.
So if I were to ask you about the pyramids, how were they built? Who built them and why?
Okay, I believe that this came from centuries ago, and this is good that you bring up the pyramids, because we have signs all around us. If you go back, nobody can answer this question realistically. With what the technology that we have today, Can we build a pyramid? Can we do a lot of what? There you go. So there is the answer. I believe that when they first came down, they gave us, and still are, I absolutely believe that, giving us technology. But they wanted to leave. They left certain things here before they went back to their planet, which we can say Nibiru or Planet X. Mm-hmm. So they left us many things to think about. How did this happen? How they were built. Right now I can go into it, but a lot was they lifted them up. Where did they have this equipment to build these pyramids?
Right.
There were many things. The signs are there. We just don't want to look at it because it's not what we've been taught.
Okay. If I were to tell you that there's a coral castle in Homestead, Florida, that a guy from another country came here and built on the same order of the pyramids, have you been there? Do you know about that?
I haven't, but I've been tempted to go there. I believe right now, without going into more detail, it was a lot with levitation, but in order to explain this, it's not feasible, that people are not going to understand, and yet they see the signs. I mean, there's ancient aliens on the history. I don't know if people are listening to that. I recommend to listen to that. My husband, who I've just married recently, knew absolutely nothing about it. I was away at one time or somewhere, and he calls me. He said, "Have you seen Ancient Aliens?" It's there, everything you're talking about. So as time is going by, he's opening up so much more. He didn't understand this in the beginning, but it's hard to be with me to not talk about it. So he's very open now, and he's beginning to see the signs, just as anybody that's listening to this program. If you have the interest, not everybody does, but if you do, tune into these programs that are trying very hard to show us there's so much more.
So if I were on the telephone and called you and I said, I think I've been abducted, but I'm not so sure. I have some marks and
right.
some memory here, way in the back of my subconscious mind, what would you tell me to do?
Well, I would tell them to do what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And that is to go and be hypnotized with somebody that understands this. I can recall a lot, but I'm human. I'm saying, is this possible? But I want to know much more of what I saw. So for me personally, if you said, I asked you, what should I do? And my answer for myself that I'm going to do is I want to go back and know exactly what I've seen. Because I went many times. I can remember a lot, but not everything.
But you can't just ask any hypnotist.
No, it's got to be someone.
How would you find the proper hypnotist?
Well,
person to help you?
I need somebody that knows, as you do, and you know, I would ask
Absolutely.
someone like yourself to say, please, I trust your judgment. I know that you know this. Find me somewhere. Let me be asleep, and I'll explain what I saw.
Every state in the United States is a MUFON society, a Mutual UFO Society.
Okay.
And so they would have some contact with people who are reputable and have knowledge on having people who have been abducted to go back and be researched and see whether or not it's true or not. So I would do that. I would also, Dr. Greer, do you know Dr. Greer?
I've seen him on Gaia. Yes.
What do you think about Dr. Greer?
I think these are amazing people. I mean, they're credible people. They're people that are coming out now. As they get older, they're what we would call whistleblowers that are coming out with what's happened to them. This is really important. I guess if they're in their 80s or late 80s, they want the world to know, as I do too. I don't expect everybody, obviously, to believe this, but I'm doing what I feel that I'm meant to be doing.
There are other people like you who are psychic.
Yes.
Who channel.
Yes.
Who are clairvoyant.
Yes.
And who happen to be intuitive.
Right.
How do we determine the legitimacy of those kind of people?
Well,
like Edgar Cayce is a name that comes to mind.
Yes, and I'm not going to say anything that hasn't been put out there. Okay. I believe that David Wilcox has mentioned on Gaia that he is reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. He had actually said that. Okay. But that's a disclaimer. I mean, this is what he said, but I'm not here to tell you who he was. Well, but he has mentioned that in some of his...
Let's go back in your history. Who were you before? Let's say in Europe. This is
okay. All right. Yeah. This is something I I go back into this lifetime. It's going to be in my book, okay?
Oh,
so we're going to tell people, buy my book and you'll know who I was, okay? I'm going to leave it there from the Renaissance Center. Lynn, we'll have you on the show in a few minutes. I'm going to put who I was in my book, okay?
I see, okay.
That's a cliffhanger to bring some humor into this.
Well, Lynn, he's going to be on your program in a few minutes.
Yes, he is, which he's writing my book. So.
Okay, what is he writing about?
He's writing, basically, I had written my first book, which was about my travels. I didn't know. I thought I was just projecting, and some of them were. My next book now, and we're opening up as far as the UFO goes, is going to be my life from the start to where I have gotten to today, and how Aldo, in his way, helped me so much. And we will talk about reincarnation. We're going to now obviously have a big chapter, or maybe a couple, on UFOs, because I'm realizing what happened to me. And we'll talk about who I was in a previous life.
And you might have interfaced with some of the other alien species that we talked about, that they talk about on Gaia.
Right.
Or cosmic connections, or ancient aliens.
Right.
So you might have the Greys, the Reptilians, the Nordics, and goes on Blue Avians and many others that are here on this planet at this time.
Yes.
Now, they did talk about Hollow Earth. Did you get any ideas about what Hollow Earth is all about?
Well, it brings me back again to Aldo, who actually told me that he was from, and I didn't know the exact name, like calling it Hollow Earth, because I believe there's another section. He said to me he came to the surface, he used to tell me. He came from another planet, but his reincarnation's coming back here. He said to me, and he didn't talk that much to me about it, because he only talked to what I was asking questions. I was interested, but he told me he was from the underneath here and rose to the surface and came out that way on planet. But I believe he's been on this planet. He was for many, many centuries, though. He was an old soul here, but originally came down from another planet.
Some are saying that there are a lot of cities and all across the world underground, and there are some aliens who live there, and there's some, for instance, if we will go to Antarctica, they said that people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people live there with spaceships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Did you have any information on Antarctica?
Only because I feel that I can, when I sometimes, like I am here now, I'm sitting here, I get into my zone. People don't realize that I'm in a trance. I look at myself. Apparently I use my hands much more, which my husband has pointed out to me. I see that. And then when I see it, for some reason, I'll go in maybe to a TV program. On Gaia, they expose that. And I kind of know what they're showing me. I see that. I see big spacecrafts down there. I know that Antarctica has been visited, from what I also hear, so it's out there in the news, by many people in the know, go down there. Of course, it's top secret, but I am able to astral project. So whether they take me there or not, I seem to be able to go there anyway.
In the last 2 years, Biden has been there, the Pope, Putin, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Buzz Aldrin, and many others. Even the Queen. So, before she passed. So, there must be something there if they have all these political...
Of course, Russ, absolutely. I'm not the only one that's saying this. Many, many people today are saying this, and more are getting exposed to this information, excuse me, which is really important. It's important, whether you believe it or not. My message is, please just keep an open mind.
So you're still doing readings?
Yes, I'm still doing readings.
Okay, so how would people get in contact with you in terms of your
By
readings?
actually calling here at the Brooklyn Cafe, and I always, as much as I can remember all this, I always forget the number, but it's right there, 888-994-4995. Call in, as you do on my show, ask me anything, and now I've opened up to UFOs, so if you have had an experience or you feel you want to know more, I will definitely do my best to answer.
Well, where do you see things going in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, the Pentagon made the soft discovery, or disclosure, if you will. Now, we're dealing with some things in the space now that the government has to say, why did we shoot them down, and what are they, if anything at all, right? Many things, many people are coming for want full disclosure. David Icke talks about it, Corey Good, all those people. What do you think is going to happen to the minds of people in the next 5 to 10 years on planet Earth?
Well, I think, as Arda used to say, little by little, we are beginning to expose this more. I believe that disclosure will happen, but I think it's going to be in a very, very subtle way. It's already happening. I don't know the other objects that were up there. However, it's going to get people thinking, because they're not even talking about the last three.
Sure.
So we're going, what was it? Why aren't they not? Yes, the balloon they came out with, but that was a spy balloon.
But they did that in 1947 in
But
Boswell.
yeah, that's exactly right. And there was a
wasn't a
cover
balloon.
up, you know.
It was a cover up.
Absolutely. But I think we've come a long way since then, Russ.
Okay.
I believe that they're going to expose this more, whether people are ready to hear it or not. But it will be gradual to get our minds used to the fact that we are not alone. We're not alone.
All right, all right. So I think we want to bring in your next guest.
Yes, he's sitting there patiently with a different subject. My book editor, Lynn. Okay.
Okay. How are we going to do that?
We'll go for a
break?
commercial. Yes,
Let's
we'll
go
go
for a
for a
commercial
commercial.
break and
Right.
then we'll bring him in.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for
We have
answering
not heard the end of you. You're going to be on my show
I
many
see.
times.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay. Right.
A lot of questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well,
thank you. Okay.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Bernard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the 3rd dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Bernard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybernard.com today. Now, back to the show. Hi, here we're back with another guest of mine. It may be slightly different topic, but my book editor, Lynn Everard, who has a program. Your program is on
the editor's desk.
How simple is that? Any simple question when I'm sitting here I can't answer, but at least the some questions I can. So please tune into his show. You can see it there, host of the editor's desk. Okay, so do you have any questions for me, Lynn?
Oh, I have all kinds of questions for you. I know Russ was just getting warmed up.
I'm going to tell him, take a seat, Russ.
As he had to finish up.
Okay.
But so actually, I want to continue that line a little bit, because we actually haven't, in our discussions about your book, we talked about astral projection, but we really haven't talked about UFOs.
Right.
And so it looks like that's going to be the next area for us to explore. So with everything happening in the world today, I think Russ asked you like where you saw things going in the next 5 or 10 years, but I'm going to ask you, what are your guides telling you about what's happening right now, the things that are happening, what's real and what's not?
Well, I think we need to disclose this. They're telling me disclosure, as we called it, as you had said, a soft disclosure to start off with, because we're going to scare a lot of people, and they know that too. But little by little, they're showing themselves. Not only am I understanding this, they're showing themselves to us, actually. And also a lot of these radio TV programs that are on, and I mentioned Gaia because that's really good to listen to, Beyond Belief and some of the ones on there, we're coming out more and more ready to disclose this. I am surprised and happy that my show and myself is going in this direction. I didn't know I was going to do this. And as you know, you've been with me now writing my book for many months now. I just thought astral projection was strange, but I thought that's what I was doing. I suddenly realized, and one very good, what I would say, clue to me was, I'm talking to people when I go on my travels, and I'm on a spacecraft, a small one, not the big ones, a small one, a thin one. How, if I was astral projecting, and I realized that from Aldo, you don't necessarily talk to people, you see them. And yet they're explaining me, and I put this in my book from 18 years ago, what I am seeing, what planet I'm on, and I'm traveling in a craft. I only 18 years later realized what I was doing.
Well, isn't it fascinating that if we had stayed by our original schedule, we would have already wrapped up the information gathering phase of writing your book. But because for one reason or another we kept finding more things to explore,
Right.
then Russ showed up on the scene.
Yep.
And we got to then start exploring, you started exploring the UFO aspect. And so now we get to bring that into your book. And as you always say, there are no coincidences.
I was just going to say my famous line, there is no coincidences.
So we get to do that part.
Right,
And
right.
we will get the book done, but at the rate we're going, and the world evolving so quickly, we don't know what's going to show up next in your world.
But as I'm sure you feel the same way, this is important. I mean, my story, yes, and everything that happened to me, well, we're definitely going to have 1 or 2 chapters on this, because my first book was all about my travels. I didn't want to do another book that way, but I wanted to put what was happening to me there. So I guess we're being led now, because now I believe is the time to come out with this. It might not have been 18 years ago. What I was saying, going to planets, I thought, am I going to have a knock on my door and someone's going to take me away? But they didn't. So
Yeah, and one of the things that occurs to me is that even though the story that we're telling is about your life, it's really designed to encourage people to ask questions.
yes.
And to ask questions about their world and ask questions about their own life. And what are they seeing? And how many times were they outside on a summer's evening and looked up in the sky and saw something that they didn't know what it was?
And actually my reason, not only, but my main reason is to expose this, to show people I can only validate and talk about what's happened to me, but I'm not alone. There are people, and I do believe there is no coincidences. So the people that might want to know more about this will tune into this show or from other shows that I'm going to be doing. They'll have more interest. I'm here to show people and validate what happened to me. I can't tell you that there is people out there. There are people that this has happened. I'm not the only one. It's happened to them.
Right.
Now is the time.
If you look at so many of the movies that have been made about aliens and UFOs, it's like the emphasis has been on creating fear in people and thinking, oh, they're aliens, they're here to destroy us, they're here to kill us, they're here to harm us. What do your guides tell you about people from off the planet? And are they here for love or are they here for fear?
Well, just like here, we have all different types of people. I believe that the people visiting there are many different types of off-planet alien people. I'm going to say that the majority, and that's not everyone, because there are people here that don't want us to know, are here to help us. As I had mentioned to Russ on his show, on my show, and also I believe on your show too, that they come here to show us that they're coming to help our planet. Having said that, again, as I often talk about balance, as you know, there's this side and there's this side. We're in the middle here on balance, going through there. So just like everything else, there are 2 different types of alien people coming visiting us. They're the ones that this is all, don't let them know, let's scare them, let them think, this, and we'll still be able to, quote, control us. I'm breaking through that. I feel that I'm ready to, I can't expose everything because I don't know everything, but I'm ready to feel that I feel that we have been controlled. And they are still around, which is okay. I mean, we've got to accept both sides of this, but just keep that balance.
Isn't it fascinating that the control, the education, if we want to call it that, has been designed to get all of us as humans to fear each other as humans, So imagine what we must think inside, or for what many of us must think inside, if we're not feeling comfortable with other humans. What are we going to feel like when we see these people that have completely different structures and forms, and what is that going to do?
That's a great question, and I haven't got all the answers, but I do know from what Aldo used to tell me, and he kind of reinforced what I already knew, but I didn't know that I knew it. From my belief, it's a game that we're playing here. And there's two sides to this game. He used to say to me, divide and conquer. I didn't realize the significance of it until today. So we get people confused because that's what's happening here. But when you begin to sort of unravel your, quote, mind a little bit and see what's going on, there really is not a whole lot to fear. Other planets understand this. We don't, because we're in a dense planet. But I do believe that we're coming out. I talk about the 3D, the 5D dimension here. We're in a 3D, for people that don't understand this, to just give it very quickly, which is very dense. We have a lot of secrets here. We're controlled. We don't know really what's going on. But gradually, more and more people are, quote, what they call waking up to this. But we can't do it overnight. It's just like someone that may have an addiction. You can't, it takes a while to understand this. It took me, I would honestly say, a good 18 years, and I'm painting and I'm drawing everything. So for me, what I feel that I need to do the best that I can is start to expose this little by little. I feel, because I believe in the law of attraction, that I will attract people as I have you, with similar interests. So we can all, it's not just me. I want to work together with people that understand this so that we can talk about this the best that we can. I can only do what I can do, but I am ready to expose what's happened to me, absolutely. People don't have to believe me, but I'm doing my job. I know what's happened to me. How have I been able to paint? How do I understand all these things? I haven't read that much about it, but it comes to me very quickly. So in answer to the question, we don't have to do anything, and I say that too, but I feel that my need is to start exposing this a little bit. That's why I have it on my show. My show's been different to this. This is the first time we've really talked about this on my show.
So, as humans who struggle with each other, what would you suggest would be the best way for us as humanity to prepare to perhaps one day encounter what we consider now to be aliens, which may simply be our brothers and sisters in a different form?
Yes.
Right? What would you suggest that we do to start preparing for that meeting one day that we know is going to happen?
Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to, that's why there hasn't been disclosure. There will be mass hysteria unless we start doing it gradually, because eventually they will show us more. So I'm trying to do this little by little to say that maybe that's more, maybe we're not alone. They show us themselves, they abduct us. But there are many people, just as myself, I'm only beginning to realize what happened, but we're scared to come out with this. So anybody, and please call into my show, not even my show, anybody that can help you. I will be happy to answer any questions on this. If I have viewers out there that want to ask, you have a show, Russ, which I was on. So anything that people can listen to, get literature to train your mind that we're not alone. That's my message. We are not alone. However they show themselves, it's up to them.
So let's go back and revisit the word abduction. Mm-hmm. Because so often when we hear the term abduction, you get these alerts on your phone that says child abduction, right? So typically when we hear the word abduction, we're thinking it's a negative thing. We're thinking it as something being done by force, something that someone's going to harm us in some way. And as I was asking you this question, I started coming up with the word field trip, right? That would almost be like a teacher from somewhere taking us on a field trip to another place, another planet, perhaps a planet that we lived on, and we go back to our old neighborhood, right? Now, we can't go back there in form because we don't look like they do.
Right, right.
But on some level, we get to go back to the old neighborhood and see how everybody's doing.
Well, I can only go by me. I had this happen every 3 days for a year. I'm still here. I'm still hopefully normal, quote normal, and I'm still able to talk about it. Again, I had help here in the beginning, but he didn't leave me. So there are many people, and I believe a lot of people are coming forward with this. So the more we hear it, it's basically training your mind to see that there is more. We've got to start somewhere. I mean, we could go another 100 years. I believe, and I believe they want us to know that they exist. I don't think there are many planets like us that don't know this. We don't. And yet this is a great planet to be on, to learn. But let's learn about people that are off this planet today. We are not alone. That's my message. I mean.
Yeah, well, we could probably use some good examples of how to get along from off the planet.
They're not happy with us. Most people are not happy with us. They're not happy, which I have talked about, which is coming to me too, with all the things that we're doing with all this nuclear, because that goes into our environment. If you think of this as a planet, and there are other, they don't want all this going onto their planets. They've learned more because they've been around a lot longer than us. We've been around many, many years, but there are people that are planets that are much older than us. They started where we were. I truly believe this, and they kind of graduated to go someplace else. The planets that I'm talking about, and I'll mention it again, is Planet X or Nibiru. They came down here, which is another show, but to the best of what I can do, I can talk about that because I have memory of it. But we need to start somewhere. We're doing that right now. We're doing that. I've had the opportunity because I have this show. I know it's different, and I might lose some viewers, but that's okay. But the ones that might tune in are the ones that are meant to be tuning in on this. So I can accept that. I'll accept that.
So, as you know, my co-host Luis Gomez and I wrote a book about our past life together in Mexico 500 years ago.
Right.
And so that has me thinking now about UFOs and other planets, because most of the time when we think about past lives, we're thinking about past lives here, right?
Right.
But
yes.
Past lives can extend way beyond just this planet.
Absolutely, because we have our soul, from the best of what I know, we don't lose any of this. We come in because we have erased our memory, which they do too when they abduct us. But little by little, the more you can expose yourself to these possibilities, for me personally, my memory is coming back. It's coming back from lifetimes here, but it's also coming back off planet, because how it came back in my, what I would call my subconscious. We have a super consciousness too. That's another story, but it's there. I am drawing this. I'm drawing from this time, from the Renaissance, but I'm going way back beyond that. That's why I want to be hypnotized by someone that's a professional to tell me exactly how far back that I can remember. I have some of it, but I don't have all of it. So I need to expose myself more, to come out more with this information.
Yeah, this is such a fascinating topic. I mean, the past lives is a fascinating topic, and then you bring the other planets and UFOs and everything in, and then it gets really interesting. I can picture in the cartoons where the person is having this idea that he can't quite handle, or he gets hit over the head, and they show these stars like circling around his head, right? Like where he's just like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm just getting into just getting to the idea that there are past lives on this planet. You want me to think there's past lives that we were on other planets?
Totally get that. I understand that, but we've got to start somewhere.
Right.
So maybe I'm giving too much information, I don't know, but I am so ready to talk about this today. So again, and Aldo used to say this every day to me, go little by little by little. He was with me 18 years. Day and night. There wasn't, I can honestly say, very few days that if he wasn't staying with me, he would call me and give me more information and talk to me, because he needed for me to be able to recall this. Never led me. I hope that and he told me to be his mouthpiece when he left here. I am now his mouthpiece.
Well, clearly, the bigger plan for you included Russ showing up
Yes, of course.
to take you into this other piece that maybe Aldo would have got to and maybe he wouldn't have,
That's right.
right? But just for you to go on your astral travels would have been enough to open the door, even if it was just a crack. Because now, 18 years later, now you're ready for the information.
Yes, and I even though I was traveling, I still didn't realize it was abductions until I met Ross, actually. And I said, you were abducted, you were in a craft, you were talking to these people, they took me off planet. So even all the information I was getting, it took me till now to realize what really happened to me. So I think we're coming to the end of the show. I hope I didn't scare too many people. I'm not here to do that. But please tune in next week. I may have a lot more visitors here that are going to tune in, and we'll talk maybe more about it or any questions that people may have on this subject or anything else. And we'll talk more about my artwork too, which we were planning on doing today, Lynn. But thank you, and thank everybody for tuning in. I think do we have a few more minutes? Maybe we have one or two questions.
So we do have a couple minutes.
What motion picture would you tell people to watch? I've watched Communion.
Okay.
E.T.'s a long, long time ago.
Yes.
And there's one called Taken, and that was done by Steven
Spielberg?
Spielberg.
Okay.
It was a 13-hour miniseries that you can always go to Amazon and get.
Okay.
13 hours of it.
Well, I think I've got a lot of homework to do because I haven't watched those, and now I'm going to see what I'll be able to relate to. I think we need your mic.
And the other one is The Fourth Kind. It's a little scary, but that was done in Nome, Alaska.
Wait, your mic.
Oh.
Yeah, that's okay. But it was good information, yes.
That was the Fourth Kind. So I'm recommending The Fourth Kind, Communion, Taken by Steven Spielberg. And of
Beautiful.
course, E.T. and many others.
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah.
And you'd
For
say to
homework.
the viewers, keep an open mind because this could be real, right? It is
Well,
real.
I think it's more real than not.
I know. I agree. But just so that people might go in and
What books have you recently read?
Well,
you
I've
would
only just
recommend?
really opened up much more to this. I have listened to Gaia. I've listened to the many people which they
Right.
quote whistleblowers, and my
Right.
interest was taking me so much there. I did want to listen more because I could follow what they were saying.
okay.
So I recommend Gaia, which I had said too, the
Cosmic
motion
Connections,
pictures.
Disclosure.
And disclosure, yes,
Yeah.
disclosure. Gradually, we have to do it little by little,
Right.
otherwise
It's a
everybody
lot
will
of-
be going crazy.
A lot of podcasts out there.
Yes.
A lot
yes,
of books out
absolutely,
there. A lot of
yes.
motion pictures. So
Right.
it's called a lot of homework to be done.
Yes.
And in much of that material, it's like 90% right on target in terms of what we need to understand
Right.
in terms of looking at it differently rather than looking at it the way we brought up for the last 50 or 60 or 70 years.
Correct.
So-
Yes. Well, thank you so much, both of you, both my guests, from
Right.
a slightly maybe different perspective, but ultimately it's all the same. We're talking about something that needs to be disclosed. You're writing my book. You're helping me too to expose this more. This is not coincidence. And thank you. I think we've come to the end of the show. When I see you standing there, I know
I
we're...
got one quick thing.
Oh, okay.
Because can you talk about dreams real quick?
Of course.
Because I had a dream last night. I don't know if I should be scared by it, but just if you can just talk about dreams for a little bit.
About dreams, you don't want to come out with your dream.
I'll talk about it after. Because
Okay. A dream, it comes from two different places from what I understand. We go into what we have a subconscious or that recalls everything that we're doing. So very often in a dream, it can be a different scenario, but it's what we may have done that same day, a year ago, whatever. It's there. But there are other types of dreams, a more lucid type of dream, which I was having, where you can remember and go back into that dream I remember from 18 years ago. So in my mind, these are two different types of dreams. Take note of dreams though, because when we fall asleep, we are using our subconscious or we get messages. So it's important to remember if you can. Most of us don't. I don't today remember my dreams. I remember some. Get a notepad, which I did when I was documenting. Write down. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. I had to write, and I was bad at that, but I knew I had to do it. I wrote down where I had been. I can remember from 18 years ago. My dream last night, I don't remember. I think it was important, but I don't remember it because it wasn't necessary for me to remember it.
Okay.
Does that help you a little bit, Josh?
A little bit, a little
Okay.
scary, but yeah.
Doesn't-
I'll tell you about it after.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the, do you have one more question?
No, I was saying, make sure you read a lot of books.
Yes.
There are a lot of books out there. I
Right.
have about 50 at home.
Right.
And all the motion
Well,
pictures.
hopefully you guys will be a guest again on the show.
Sure.
We can't just end it like this. This would be, it's like a real cliffhanger, right?
Well,
In space.
Well, if we got to begin to really stretch out and look at all the materials out there.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
especially Dr. Stephen Greer,
Perfect.
Michael, I just want to say that Michael Seller is another person that you want to, Michael, S-A-L-L-A. He's doing a lot of research, prolific writer, and a fantastic researcher. And he's done a lot of books on the Antarctica about the Germans and all of that, and about how Kennedy was killed and the Majestic 12 and all of that, all the secret information that.
Well, I was just saying that. I'm thinking, how can I get this out there? But I have a lot of followers on LinkedIn
Yeah.
under Sally Bernard.
Right.
I can put these authors out there
Absolutely.
for people that are interested, or if they want to contact me,
Well, I put a lot
we'll
of-
have the name of them.
Well, I put a lot of on my website, which is the lightsofthenight.org.
Right, right,
Lightsofthenight.org.
right.
So if you go there, you'll see maybe 15, 20,
Perfect.
30 books listed
Perfect.
there, and some of the shows
Yes.
listed there.
Thank
Right,
you.
right,
Thank
sure, you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody that participated here. And thank you up there. Okay. Goodbye. I'll see you next week. Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Bernard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybernard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.